Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I thoroughly agree with this, and I think this is especially true of our high school years in school. High school is a pivotal time in a child's development. It's, according to psychologists, that's where they have the most brain development. It's where they develop emotional skills and stability, and where they really find out who they are and can learn how they learn best. And so I think getting a quality high school education is the most important thing in someone's life, and most educators and professionals tend to agree with that standpoint. With that being said, I would ask, if this high school education is the most important thing, why wouldn't we make sure that we're giving high school students the best quality education possible? Now, over the last probably 10 years or so, along with the advancements in technology, there's been a strong debate between the best way in which we can give high school students a quality education. That debate has been between online independent study courses and their effectiveness versus the effectiveness of a traditional high school classroom. Personally, I think that moving students from that traditional classroom setting into an strictly online independent study program is illogical. I don't think that it is a smart thing to do. The classroom is where students learn structure, it's where they learn social and emotional skills, and it's where they learn important life skills, organizational life skills like self-control, time management, and then goal planning and goal setting. And when you take a student out of that environment, they are less likely, and it's been proven that they are less likely to learn those skills and be able to properly exhibit them in adulthood, especially when it comes to college or finding a good job. So online independent study programs are generally ineffective for high school students, and that is due in part to a lack of face-to-face communication with instructors and teachers, a lack of structure, and especially, and most importantly, in my opinion, there's an inability to measure the learning outcomes in high school courses. So just a little background. In an article published in the New York Times by Mark Edmondson, an English professor at the University of Virginia, he reported that there were about there was a top 8 reasons that students were dropping out of school, including bad academic performance, an inability to balance between academics and working, not enough individual attention, and then a lack of engagement in schooling. And a key factor that he listed that contributed to all of those things was a student's inability to prioritize, set goals, to motivate themselves, and to manage their time wisely, which are things that are all essential life skills in general, inside and outside the classroom. Now, in addition to that report by Mark Edmondson, there was a report published by the Children Trends database that showed that around 10% of all high school students across the country and the world drop out each academic year. That's about 8,300 students dropping out a day. And the fact that more and more parents are pulling their students from public school and putting them in independent study programs is not helping to improve those statistics, because that is quite a big number. Now, one of the bigger concerns that surrounds online courses and their effectiveness is the fact that there's no true structure to online education. Students can't really learn those essential life skills taught in the classroom. The Pew Research Center did a study in which they asked professors who had experience teaching both online and in-classroom education whether or not they thought online schooling was effective. Now, these are the results of that study. It showed that about 71% of educators with experience in online and traditional classroom said that online courses are not as effective as in classroom instruction. And they felt that that was mostly to the fact that in school, students can learn those things like self-control and time management, but outside of the classroom, those things are hard to teach. Now, I think that taking high schoolers out of the classroom, setting them loose independently before they have a chance to learn those skills, is like asking a fisherman to win a fishing competition with no fishing pole, or asking a high school athlete to play at a professional level without any training, with no preparation and no coaching. They're just not going to have the necessary skills to succeed. In addition, education professional and researcher Xuan Wang said that online courses are only successful when students are satisfied with their learning experience and students experience success in learning course content. So a student can't be satisfied with their success if they aren't properly learning and retaining the material. And for them to be able to do that, they have to have those skills like self-control and time management. And so for that reason, I think that distance learning programs don't work for high school students. They just can't. There are some extenuating circumstances that I'll discuss later, but in general, they just don't work. You can't expect them to succeed and perform well consistently without giving them the tools they need. Now, another big issue surrounding high school students in online courses is the lack of face-to-face education with instructors. Again, Mark Edmondson said about teaching that with every class we teach, we need to learn who the people are in front of us. We need to know where they are intellectually, who they are as people, and what we can do to help them grow. Teaching is a matter of dialogue. Additionally, a member of the Babson Survey Research Group, Angela Murphy, said that online education is a one-size-fits-all endeavor. It tends to be a monologue and not a real dialogue, specifically in a relationship between instructors and students. So basically, an internet teacher can't have the direct access that an online on-scene, as Mark Edmondson calls them, teacher can. They can't have that immediacy. They can't have that constructive criticism that they need right away to grow and to learn. Now, I work for BYU Independent Study, which is a highly successful, world-known independent study program, and in our independent study high school courses, they are very independent. Students are not given their instructor's contact information, and we see a lot of problems in this area because students aren't able to get that immediate feedback and have that communication with their instructors, and that produces a lot of confusion and frustration and ultimately leads to poorer grades with our students. And that's what interested me in this subject, because I took a lot of courses in high school, and the only reason I did well and was satisfied is because my mom was always there hounding me to do my work. And now that I've taken some in college, I've seen that without that structure, without that communication with an instructor, I just didn't learn what I needed to. I think this next part is the biggest issue when it comes to online learning. So because when we go to high school, we're going to school to learn. Schools are given learning outcomes that their students have to meet, and those can be measured through testing, looking at test scores and things like, and evaluating teachers and things like that. But with online education, it's not a school. There's not a structure. There's not a classroom. There's thousands, probably millions of students, and it's almost impossible to measure whether or not students are meeting those outcomes. Now, the Babson Survey Research Group and Inside Higher Education did a study in which they asked, again, professors who taught both in-class and online courses whether or not they felt online classes could meet learning outcomes. And nearly 2/3 of the professors questioned said that they believed that learning outcomes for online courses were inferior to those of in-classroom learning outcomes. So simply put, this research information is showing that even professors who have taught online classes don't feel that they are adequate to teach students what they need to know. Now, ultimately, I think it's pretty foolish to give our students and put them in a program that even the teachers don't support. They don't even support it, and they don't think that it can truly be effective. And so that should be something that is of great concern to both parents and students, and should encourage parents to keep their kids in school so that they can have that quality education and be able to meet those learning outcomes and to be able to adjust their learning if they're not. Now, this isn't to say that online independent study programs are terrible in every situation. There's been a lot of reported success. They can even be a blessing for some people with chronic illnesses like cancer that keep them out of school, for children who have the self-drive and motivation and want to graduate early and move on, and even students who are needing some credit recovery just to graduate in the first place. So they can be really helpful, and I did a lot of sports in high school, and they really helped me, but only when I had somebody to push me. I didn't have that motivation, and I think that is a problem among most high school students. So I think that parents really need to take a look at their options when deciding what to do with their high school student. They need to understand who their student is and how they learn, and decide whether or not online schooling is right for them. In general, though, I think most parents need to slow down. They need to allow their kids to learn a thing or two in school. They need to slow down and keep their kids in school in traditional classroom settings.